Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it is recording right now.
Of a brief land acknowledgement and a brief introduction in the interest of everyone's time. Go ahead, please.
Hey, yes, I'd like to say welcome to everybody to this session, and sorry for the time delay, technical problems. I'm not as an expert as I'd like to be. And what I'd like to acknowledge that we are indeed on Treaty 6 land, and we are all beneficiaries of the Treaty 6 agreement that was made between the Indigenous chiefs in the late 1800s and the Governor General of Canada, which gave all of us the right to be here. It was all based on a criminal activity way back in the 1500s. So we still are trying to figure out a way to compensate the Indigenous people for the land that they've given up, which they had the free right to roam for years, and now they do not. So we're working on it. Government of Canada is working on it, and let's hope we make some progress in the next few years.
Amen. Thank you. Well said. And Ibrahim and I actually looked it up. We first met in 2010. I didn't send a biography within the email, and I certainly won't repeat that. We met in 2010 when he and a colleague from the Intercultural Dialogue Institute somehow found us and told us about Ashura and Noah's pudding, which is a wonderful, it's when Noah's Ark ended up in Mount Ararat, which of course is in Turkey, and if Ibrahim had a minute to talk about that, but that is not his topic today. So he brought the actual pudding. It's a delicacy in Turkey, which country I visited, in which has the best cuisine in the world, in my humble opinion. Do you, Alan? Food in Turkey did knock me out, and everything about your beautiful country knocked me out. So I think that's enough from me, and Ibrahim will learn more about you as you talk. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So, I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk about the important role that Muslim chaplains play in providing spiritual care within secular and interfaith societies. As a Muslim chaplain myself, I am honored to share my experiences with you and explain why having Muslim chaplains in our communities is so essential. In today's speech, I want to focus on mainly three topics. First, my own motivation of chaplaincy, then connection between chaplaincy and Islam, and finally, as a Muslim chaplain, how I function genuinely within a multi-faith workplace. And I will share some of my real life experiences to touch and support these topics that I will share today. So let me start by defining the term chaplaincy. Chaplaincy is a form of ministry that provides spiritual and emotional support to individuals in numerous institutional settings such as hospitals, schools, prisons, and military units. It could be any form of institution that requires spiritual care, that they can have chaplains nowadays. Muslim chaplains specifically offer these services to Muslims and non-Muslims, helping to promote a sense of community and belonging for all. Through the Master of Theological Studies program at St. Stephen's College, I have recognized that unity and community are two values that strongly motivate my spiritual life and professional interests. As we know, in today's society, diversity and inclusion are vital aspects that need to be recognized and respected. Our communities are made up of people from different cultural, religious, and ethnic backgrounds. In such a diverse environment, it is critical that we have a people who understand and appreciate these differences. Muslim chaplains are uniquely positioned to do this as they bring a deep understanding of Islamic traditions and culture, which can be invaluable in fostering positive interfaith relationships. One of the key roles of a Muslim chaplain is to provide spiritual guidance and support to individuals who may be struggling with personal or spiritual issues. In many cases, they act as a counselor, providing a safe and confidential space for individuals to share their problems and work towards finding solutions. For Muslims in particular, chaplains can help them navigate their faith in a secular society, providing a bridge between the two worlds. In addition to individual support, Muslim chaplains can also play a crucial role in building bridges between different faiths and communities. They can help to promote understanding and acceptance, leading to a more cohesive and inclusive society. They can also act as a resource for non-Muslims who may have questions or concerns about Islamic practices and beliefs. Now, you may be wondering why it is so important to have Muslim chaplains specifically. The answer lies in the fact that Islam is one of the world's major religions, with nearly 2 billion, a little bit over than 2 billion as of this month, I figured, followers worldwide. Muslims have a unique set of spiritual and cultural needs that are best served by individuals who understand their faith and can help them navigate the challenges of living in a secular society. Muslim chaplains can provide a wide range of services to their communities within the secular communities, including leading congregational prayers, conducting religious ceremonies, and providing pastoral care. They can also play a role in promoting interfaith dialogue and understanding, working towards building a stronger and more cohesive communities. Now, at this point, I want to talk a bit about what is my own motivation for the chaplaincy. Serving humanity is one of the key concepts in Islam, and it has a strong stance in which my faith influences my person-oriented and facilitative approach to spiritual care. Serving with good intentions is encouraged and also a vital component of my faith. Over the centuries, numerous scholars excelled in comprehending Islam. Once they broadened their knowledge, they trained many students. They didn't keep their knowledge to themselves. After they achieved some level in their faith, they trained many students and educated them about their learnings and achievements, because that's a duty as Muslims. That's a duty that our faith gives us, each and every individual. So part of their teaching process was to develop servitude and a greater self-awareness through dedication to accomplishing assigned daily tasks. For example, you might know the name Yunus Emre, a great Sufi mystic and poet, worked as a wood chopper for many years while attending his teacher's halakha, Taptuk Emre. Halakha means religious conversation circles. However, there were times he neglected his work, which caused him to defer his spiritual awareness. There were times he said, like, I'm attending this madrasa to learn about my faith. What am I doing in the forest cutting wood and providing wood to the madrasa? What's the point here? So he questioned and he neglected his assigned daily tasks. So students who neglected their assigned daily tasks were deemed not devoted enough to fully grasp the teachings, meaning, and awareness of the divine. As such, they did not improve their spirituality until they faithfully fulfilled their tasks and reached the level of self-awareness, anticipated and recognized by their scholar. In Islam, if the intention is just, the outcome will be good, no matter what the results are achieved. Through active servitude, one can achieve high levels of fulfillment. In contrast, though, the absence of servitude and doing nothing is the worst crime of all. So as a spiritual care provider, I am motivated to offer support to individuals who are in need of care and guidance. This motivation stems from a deeply held belief that as a human being, I am responsible for my actions and I will be held accountable for them on the day of judgment. In the context of my belief system, I understand that I have a duty to offer assistance to those in need, regardless of their background, status, or faith. So my motivation to provide spiritual care is rooted in my understanding of the importance of human connection and the easing of suffering. I believe that all individuals have inherent value and that they should be treated with dignity and respect. This belief is affirmed by the teachings of many religious traditions, including Islam, which emphasizes the importance of compassion, generosity, and kindness towards others. If you have a deep love to Creator, that same love will feed your love and respect to everything that is created. This is including like everything, not only human being, but whatever is created. Even the oxygen that we are breathing in, it's a created being. So including even that is part of something that we should respect in my faith, in Islam. Yunus Emre said regarding the same, I love the created because of Creator. So this tells me that the God gave the value to the created, whatever that might be, and I must do the same. I cannot oppose what is already given to the created. And to give that value, I have to offer my services to the created regardless. So services, like if it's an environment, I have to provide my services to the environment by taking care of it. I have to offer my services to the human being by offering my services whatever they need. Moreover, my motivation to provide spiritual care is informed by my personal experiences, including a formative experience during my clinical pastoral education at the Grey Nuns Hospital. Through my interactions with patients, I have come to realize the importance of a person-oriented and facilitative approach in promoting both mental and physical health. Academically speaking, research has shown that spiritual care can have a positive impact on patients' overall well-being, including their mental health, their physical health, and quality of life. In particular, studies have found that spiritual care can help alleviate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders, as well as improve patients' overall sense of meaning and purpose. More to that, spiritual care has been found to be effective in promoting patient satisfaction and reducing healthcare costs. In one study, patients who received spiritual care reported higher levels of satisfaction with their care and were less likely to require additional medical interventions or hospitalizations. Among many examples during my clinical pastoral education, I have a memorable one and formative one that I experienced. One day at the end of my shift, I had to go to the office to wrap up my reports. This is end of the day, and I'm supposed to be at the office to no more visits. But when I finished the last paragraph, I had an urge to go for another round at the surgery unit. This is something that I cannot explain, but something literally pushed me to go into the unit, and I found myself in front of a room where a patient was alone taking her medication. As I stood by her door, she looked at me with a questioning expression. And I paused for a moment and introduced myself. Then she smiled and welcomed me. She suffered from an unrelieved abdominal pain, and after 2 surgeries, was waiting for the health results. I engaged in a lengthy conversation with her, during which she told me, I feel like my grandson is here with me. I was delighted and continued our conversation for another almost 80 minutes. And I had prompted her to explain her anxiety, listening actively to her spiritual pain. As a result, she mentioned that her abdominal pain had receded. The next day, I revisited her. She was still waiting for her diagnosis, and she again had abdominal pain. I began talking and listening to her, hearing about her childhood, hardships with her mother, and happy moments with her family. Stories she told with great emotion. Again, after another spiritual care visit, her abdominal pain disappeared. Then she mentioned that her children never listened to her the way I did. At the end of the day, I shared my experience and what happened during my visit with my preceptor. We agreed to let her doctors know about her situation and that her abdominal pain may be a psychological rather than a physical illness. That day, I came to understand truly how important and impactful a person oriented and facilitative approach can be, not just for a patient's mental health, but also physical health. So, in conclusion, my motivation to provide spiritual care is rooted in my belief in the inherent value of all individuals and my understanding of the importance of human connection and the alleviation of suffering. My personal experiences and academic research both support the importance of spiritual care in promoting overall well-being and improving patient outcomes. So now let me talk about the connection between the chaplaincy and Islam. This is a topic that kind of controversial topic because there are comments about there's no relation in with Islam and chaplaincy. But I did some research and yes, there is. According to one of the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, teachings, all of you are shepherds and each of you is responsible for his flock, husband, wives, and everyone in the society are shepherd in a different way to the ones they express they care to. While all human beings are always in need, our needs are not identical and could be challenging to obtain. In the holy book of the Quran, Allah states, "Indeed, we have created human being in constant struggle." So the struggle never ends. One ends, the other starts. The practice of helping those experiencing difficulties within the Muslim faith is a sacred duty that should be provided to both Muslim and non-Muslim individuals, especially friends and neighbors. According to the teachings of the Islamic faith, Muslims should be mindful of the trust set in them and should take care of others. Historically, Muslim professionals have become sensible shepherds to those they are bound to. Therefore, a devout believer must be grounded in the ministry for others, not only in worshiping Allah or in effecting other modes of self-care. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also reflected within a hadith on the practice of shepherding a flock, Islamic pastoral care is not a new concept. The unique faith-based care concept provides an opportunity for Muslim chaplains to collaborate with other care providers, such as psychologists, psychiatrists, community developers, and volunteers. Active chaplaincy looks at all possible angles of pastoral interventions relevant for Muslims and non-Muslims and is aware of challenges in secular, non-religious contexts. The key is to maintain principles of conduct in line with the Islamic religion. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stated, "Whoever fulfilled the needs of his brother or sister, God will fulfill his needs. Whoever brought his brother out of discomfort, God will bring him out of the discomforts in the day of resurrection." So if you help someone about something and offer ease for their trouble, you will get the same in the afterlife. This is a hadith Qudsi. It's a statement revealed to the Prophet Muhammad by God. It's a saying of the Creator. The Prophet Muhammad consistently visited the sick and took care of his community. He was a shepherd of his flock. This stresses for me personally that caring for your brothers and sisters is a must-do, like a prayer. So we consider that as a prayer. When I go to Grey Nuns Hospital, visit patients, regardless of their faith or who they are, what ethnic background they belong to, is still a prayer in Islam for me. Now, at this point, I want to talk how, as a Muslim chaplain, I function genuinely within a multi-faith workplace. So I kind of talk about this, but I will deepen what makes me work in the secular environment as a genuine Muslim chaplain, because this is something that I got questioned a number of times by by people, because you are Muslim. You are not doing this genuinely. You must have some other purposes doing this kind of thing. So it is important to mention about this. Most of my time in practical chaplaincy was within the Gulen movement, and Neta and Earl and Kehinda knows about it. And I had the privilege of serving to thousands of individuals. Thus, I am very much influenced by the teachings of Fethullah Gulen, a Turkish Islamic scholar and spiritual leader. He has emphasized the importance of chaplaincy as well and spiritual care in many contexts. He believes that providing spiritual care to individuals is a vital part of serving humanity and promoting social harmony. Gulen has argued that chaplaincy is not only important for people who are suffering or facing difficult circumstances. I want to get your attention here because he is adding extra layer to the chaplaincy, in my understanding. He argued that chaplaincy is not only important for people who are suffering, but also for those who are thriving and seeking to deepen their spiritual and moral development. So that encompasses almost like everyone who has a goal of deepening their spiritual and moral development. He has also emphasized the need for chaplains to be trained in both religious and secular fields so that they can provide holistic care that addresses the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of individuals. Moreover, Gulen has stressed the importance of interfaith dialogue and cooperation in the context of chaplaincy and spiritual care. He believes that chaplains should be open to learning from and collaborating with individuals from different religious and cultural backgrounds in order to promote understanding and foster peaceful coexistence. He considers chaplaincy and spiritual care to be important means of promoting human well-being, fostering social harmony, and enhancing interfaith understanding and cooperation. So many years of experience taught me within the movement that once people thrive both spiritually and mentally, our societies will benefit from this well-being greatly. Thus, we can build better and more peaceful communities around the world. My spirituality as a Muslim had developed over many years, leading me, even when I did not know it, towards this call to chaplaincy. Part of my experience has involved suffering and struggles, which has nurtured my self-awareness and my spirituality. The author Peter Van Katwijk described spirituality as being connected to all of life, and it is marked by the deeply personal experience of finding one's place in the world, a place of lodgment and germination. I believe that finding a place in the world is a process that happens gradually. My spirituality, for example, has evolved through years of challenges, blessings, and a calling, all of which have made me who I am today. In this journey, my faith has been always a source of hope. It provides me with a code of behavior, ethics, and social values, which help me develop coping strategies. For instance, the concept of unity, and an essential part of Islam, helps me obtain the social value of being part of a community. And a pious believer is encouraged in Islam to act within unity and be part of the community, which is an ethic that encourages Muslims to have frequent social interactions and a caring approach to life. And this community doesn't necessarily have to be a Muslim community. It can be a community that we belong to here in Edmonton, with the diverse community. My faith clarifies why I am here and what I will experience in the afterlife. It gives me a roadmap, literally. I've been actively involved within the multi-faith and interfaith community here in Edmonton and also in Canada at large. Being in this community and being part of this unity gives me the sense of belonging with this interfaith and multi-faith society. Thus, put the responsibility of caring each and every member of this community. So when I contemplate my role as a chaplain, the first thing that comes to my mind is a profound personal belief that no one should be left uncared for, regardless of their background or faith, no matter who they are. I must do my best for those looking for pastoral and spiritual care with a caring presence when they require it. Spiritual care emerges out of and is grounded in an inclusive understanding of spirituality itself. I want to end my speech by quoting a paragraph from a book I read recently, Understanding Muslim Chaplaincy, which the author is Juliet Ray. If you want to read it, Ali and Patterson support the same perspective in stating that pastoral care in Islam starts with divine love and compassion. The Quran opens with the verse, in the name of the most compassionate, Al-Rahman, the most kind, Al-Rahim. Both of these names of God share the same root word, Rahma. The meaning of Rahma is mercy. They convey the meaning of compassion, which is not only perfect, but is inclusive of all. A reflection of God's mercy for his creatures is the instruction to Muslims that alongside fulfilling their duties towards God, they have a responsibility towards others, irrespective of their differences in creed or color. This emphasis on compassion and mercy for all reflects a non-judgmental attitude of service that expresses chaplaincy's role in Muslim chaplaincy's role in multi-faith or secular settings. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity, everyone, and listening me patiently. I wanted to make it as much in summary as possible. Hope it made sense.
That was wonderful, Ibrahim. Thank you. We have time for questions now, hopefully. Please, in discussion.
Sure.
I'd like to start. Pat, you always have a question.
Just say hello, and I'm also a chaplain many years ago, and when I was there, it was pretty much only Christians, and I guess my question would be how are you feeling in terms of how the community, the professional community, accepts you? You know, my thesis was a challenge to change pastoral care to spiritual care, so that it would sound more inclusive than just pastors, which are usually connected to Christian communities.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of different perspective comments about this. Those who interact with the Muslim patients or Muslim individuals in their work setting, they know the value of the Muslim chaplaincy, but those who never interact with the Muslim patients or Muslim individuals at their organizational setting, they question and they ask me questions like, what am I doing here? Like, as a Muslim, you have no place here. They don't say it just like that, but they give the sense of you don't belong here. Just go to your community and do what you have to do there. And I'm getting those kind of comments all the time. And I don't see that as a threat. I only see that as a challenge for me to, okay, how am I going to approach this individual to explain that what kind of chaplain I am, why it is needed. I try to find ways to explain, because I have to understand get the understanding of that person about Muslims, because there are all kinds of understanding about the Muslims. Some people think Muslims should not even be in the community. They have to go back to their own countries. If that is the concept of the individual, then I have to start from the very basic. Or if it's only as a Muslim chaplain, your qualifications are not suitable for this environment, then I have to talk about that perspective. So it varies. But yes, there is still that kind of understanding.
Ibrahim,
But on the other hand, at Grey Nuns, I felt so welcomed, and the only thing that I felt like CPE and my Master of Theological Studies at St. Stephen's. I don't know if you know the meaning of madrasa. Madrasa is a religious schools. It's the same level of the like Islamic religious universities. In Turkey, we had madrasas. In the Middle Eastern countries, the Muslim countries, they have madrasas. I considered St. Stephen's College and my master's degree and my clinical pastoral education, I considered that as a madrasa training because I had a great level of spiritual awareness during my clinical pastoral education, during my time at St. Stephen's, because I felt so much welcoming from the professors, also my preceptors and supervisors. They already had great level of knowledge about Muslim chaplaincy. So I did not feel any of that at the during my CPE training. But it was exact opposite. I learned each and every day. So I felt that privilege.
Ibrahim, were those comments from other chaplains or from patients or both?
Both. So if I talk about this too much, then I will address people. So I don't want to address people or institutions, but it's definitely people are in training. They don't know much about Muslim chaplaincy, but those like supervisors and chaplains who are there already, they know the need of the chaplaincy. So for example, let me give you an example. My preceptor at Grey Nuns, he told me that we need Muslim chaplains a lot. And if I see applicants coming in and you are the only Muslim chaplain, I would check your resume first. I would hire you. Then later I would go and check other resumes because that's how much we need the Muslim chaplains. And there were Muslim patients at the hospital that I visited. And when they see someone reading Quran to them during their hard time, they felt like they are at home. So other chaplains saw that when I talked to them within the perspective of Islam, they felt so like they felt like they have a relative in the room staying with them and talking with them. So we need that kind of service as well because the population is growing and the need of the Muslim chaplain is growing, and there is certainly need for the Muslim chaplains. So I think that illiterate perspective is disappearing day by day because each and every chaplain is seeing that need.
If I may, there's an assumption that majority, people who belong to the majority making that the majority of Canadians have been traditionally until relatively recently white Christians, let's say. So the hospital and prison chaplains and military chaplains would be white Christians, and nobody thought anything of them ministering to people who were not Christian, for example. And because there's an assumption that, well, of course, they're Christians, they belong to a big tent religion, they can minister to or be chaplains to everybody. It's the same in politics when the first non-white people began to run for politics. Oh well, they're just going to represent their own constituent. Nobody ever says about a Christian politician they're just going to represent Christians. That's a bias. There's absolutely a very strong bias made by the majority that we have blinders on, really.
Mm-hmm. Like for example, I want to give a great example of serving to non-Muslims as well. So I was visiting a patient again at Grey Nuns, and one day I visited this man who is out of the city, and like we don't say I am a Muslim chaplain, we say I'm a spiritual care provider. No one knows whether I am Muslim or Catholic or Christian or Jewish. They don't know anything about it. and we don't entitled to say it. So this gentleman was away from the family. His wife was not there to support him, but she was going to come later on. And he was feeling alone. I just sat beside him and started having conversation. And he said, I know you guys are promoting like religion and you only have a religious concept. And I said, not necessarily. Like, I am here to listen you, and whatever your struggle is, I'm here to listen. And he said, you know what? I always wanted to pray, but I never did pray because I never had the chance to go to a church because I'm working outside of the city, and where I am, there is no church. And I don't know all the religions like deeply, but I know my faith. In my faith, there is a hadith says God declared earth, north, south, east, west, everywhere as a prayer place, as a masjid, as a mosque. So from that concept, I said, why are you waiting to pray to creator, whatever the creator in your mind, whatever belief system you have? Why are you waiting for it? Because is the church is more holy than the earth that was created by God himself.
Yeah.
I think earth is more holier than the church. If you look at like who built that church, who built earth. So you can pray anywhere you want. Just take your time. Even if before you go to sleep, you can remember the creator and pray to him, talk to him. Or you get your coffee and you start driving. Before you take your sip, say a prayer. Just thank him for the well-being. Thank for the coffee that you're sipping. And you are going to feel that peace in your heart. And he said, so I don't have to go to church to pray? And I said, I'm not an expert in Christianity, but I don't think you have to go to church to pray, because then your prayer time will be very limited. I think you deserve a lot more than that, a lot of peace in your life. So you should pray anytime. And what happened was like his wife came a couple hours later, and he was so surprised. And I'm kind of surprised too, because this must be a very basic knowledge, like everyone can pray anywhere. But for some reason, this guy was so much in surprise. And he said, this chaplain says that I can pray anywhere. You should do the same. We should pray all the time. So as a Muslim chaplain, I kind of urge this person to do his prayer in his own understanding. And because I know my job is to help that person for the struggle that he's going through at that moment. And that's what I did. And as a Muslim chaplain, sometimes, yes, we can be the healer for Christian, Jews, or non-religious person, because now when you get the concept of chaplaincy, it doesn't matter what kind of faith you hold, you can still serve humanity. And for me, that is a prayer, because I serve that person within his understanding of faith or whatever it is he is believing. It doesn't matter for me. The only thing that I want to achieve at that moment is to provide that peace to that person. And for me, in Islam, that's a prayer.
Beautiful, thank you so much. Anybody
Yes.
else? Anybody else?
In Judaism, it's a mitzvah.
Yeah, it is. Donna, please. Good.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all you've shared with us. I find that especially interesting because I'm a Quaker, and in the 1640s, our founder, George Fox, had an amazing, he was raised in a family that really studied the Bible, and his mother especially. He was very interested in learning more and becoming closer to God. And one time, coming home in a thunderstorm, he was struck to the ground, and he felt as though he had a revelation that God was accessible to everyone and anyone at any time, and that you didn't need to go through the church and through authorities and so on, that through studying the Bible or the Quran, the holy books, that and through prayer, anyone, anywhere could access God or the Creator or whatever we call that person, that spirit, that being. And so it's so interesting that people are still in that little box, you know. But I also wanted to thank you because I have a severe hearing loss, and I heard everything you said.
I'm glad.
I really, really appreciate that. I had trouble hearing Netta and people at the table, but I heard everything you said, and that meant a lot to me. So thank
I'm
you.
glad. I'm glad.
And
Thank you.
I think you are your message, because I find you have given me, you've shared light on Islam to me, and I really appreciate that because I've been looking for it. So bless you in your work.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question, Ibrahim? I see you're moving toward a chaplaincy with the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
How will that be different from the CPE work with the Grey Nuns? And I have another kind of a loaded question with that. Is one of my concerns about Canadian Armed Forces is that they are often deployed in Muslim majority countries. And how are they educated, prepared for effective work in those nations? And you have a role, since you've had a background in intercultural dialogue, and how can you bridge that, besides being a chaplain, but have a larger role in helping sensitize our Canadian Armed Forces for intercultural sensitivity?
Great.
I can answer your question by giving an example. First of all, I just want to mention that I don't want to talk too much about military because I have to go through I have to get a permission from my supervisor before I talk, and this is being recorded. But I just want to give you an example what motivates me to one of the reasons that motivated me to become a military chaplain. So one of my teachers in Ottawa, he was the first Muslim chaplain in the Canadian Armed Forces. He was deployed to Afghanistan, and he shared his experience many years later. This was happened. So there was a some kind of miscommunication between the Canadian Armed Forces and the local tribe there. And this Muslim chaplain was there as well, and the Canadian Armed Forces asked his assistance to establish a communication with the tribe. So he entered into the building where this tribe leaders were present, and he said, "Assalamu alaikum," with the uniform. the Canadian Armed Forces uniform. And they got surprised. One of the military members, Canadian Armed Forces members, is talking their language, kind of thing. So it was the prayer time, and that tribe leader asked my teacher to lead the prayer with the Canadian Armed Forces uniform. Behind there's the tribe leaders. So after this prayer session and little conversation, they came to understand what the Canadian Armed Forces is trying to communicate with them, and they calmed down. So what if he was not there? There was no communication. There was maybe no one knows, like they didn't share me all the details. But if he was not there, there was going to be a miscommunication or no communication. But he was able to establish a peaceful conversation. So my role, like, I don't want to experience such thing, hopefully, but if there is a need like that, I will be there and I will resolve, God willing, I will resolve the issue. There will be no misunderstanding. There will be no fight. And I'll be able to save the day or maybe even lives with my existence. And that'll be a great achievement. That's a motivation for me to be part of the armed forces and serve everyone within the armed forces. There are Muslims, Christians, Roman Catholics, there are Catholics, United Church members, and I am able to serve them at a psychological level, spiritual care level. And if they need a religious service, then I am able to facilitate that. So all those things are kind of making me excited for my role at the military, and my training is not ended for the military chaplain. My training is still continuing for another 2 years. And yeah, that's how much I want to say. I don't want to go so much in detail. Maybe there will be another meeting like this, but if I have a written permission and everything from my supervisors, yes, I can talk everything.
Thank you so much. We'll look for you in 2 years, Ibrahim. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Might start to wind it up then. And Dawn and her Quaker community are preparing a lunch and learn talk for us in the next few months as well. And they had a beautiful Quaker display in City Hall a few months ago, and I find your beliefs fascinating and absolutely heartwarming. So we look forward to that too, Dawn. Thank you.
Let me just ask Ibrahim, are there any employed Muslim spiritual care providers in the hospital system in Edmonton right now? I hate to see you being lost as a possible future chaplain with them, but do we have any currently serving?
I don't think there is a full-time Muslim chaplain serving right now, but I think if need be, there are accessible Muslim chaplains who are working at other institutions. But I don't think there is one. If there is, I don't know the person. Yeah. But I enjoyed every second of my of my CPE training, especially my supervisors and preceptors. They were invaluable. Like I learned every second, like even during the lunch break, having conversation with them, it was a learning moment for me. They were great people.
Having worked though in the system, we have a list of people that we can refer people to, because we can't do all the rituals as a chaplain with many. So we each department has a list of people in the community that they can call. They're not chaplains, but they are people who are willing to come in and minister to their faith group.
Yeah, like for example, at Grey Nuns, I remember seeing that list, Pat. In that list, El Rashid Mosque was among many other Muslim organizations. I think if someone passed away, they were contacting with El Rashid Mosque for funeral services and everything. So there is that kind of list, but there's not an employed Muslim chaplain, as far as I know.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments to add?
Thank you very much.
Yes, if not, Ibrahim, thank you so much for your time, for taking your lunch break to talk to us. We have all learned a lot, and this has been recorded, and I'll let everybody know when it's up on our website. And thank you again very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Turned off.